Hi, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Sam, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I start an oil painting. In particular, I will be showing you how I started this pet portrait commission that I was doing this week. This portrait took me about 6 hours over 3 sessions, and it is purely oil paint on canvas board, and it's just the sweetest little portrait ever. Like, look at this little puppy. In this video, I'm going to show you how I get started and how I got to this stage here. For the tools that I use rounded brushes. That's what I learned over in Italy. Obviously, I've got to bring up Italy in this video, as I do with every other video, but I will stop at some point. So I just used 3 different sizes because this is a small portrait. I didn't have to use 100 brushes for this painting. For my palette, I used the Zorn palette, so that is titanium white, ivory black, yellow ochre, and cadmium red. I have some additional colors on the palette too, so I got the specific tones I needed for this portrait. So that included ultramarine blue, an orange, a yellow, and burnt umber. That is everything on my palette. Of course, I have my linseed oil and my terps too to help with maintaining the flow of the paint. And yeah, I think we should just get started. Buckle up, get a snack, and let's do some painting. Okay, so first what I'm going to do is get a dark neutral tone to outline the dog and my initial sketch, as well as the background too. This helps map everything out and make sure that I can really clearly see where everything's going. If you want me to do a video where I teach you how I do my initial sketch, I don't trace my initial sketches ever, and I'm able to get a really accurate start for my paintings, let me know and I can make a video about that. But once I've done the outline, I then go in with the rest of that neutral tone to colour in the darks of the painting. Then I find the darkest part of the reference photo, which for this instance is the nose, and I just deep dive into it, and it really helps to get the key values for the rest of the painting by doing the darkest area. I actually did the nose to completion. Usually I like to do everything in stages, but I just dived straight into that nose and I got it to a place where I'm actually really happy with it. Then I move on to midtones. So here I'm still putting in those darker shades and I'm building up lighter shades on top. One thing to really take note of when I'm talking about these dark tones is I'm not using a really flat brown. Instead, I'm really making sure that it's saturated by putting in reds and oranges with the blacks and the burnt umber to really make sure that they're saturated and giving a deeper, vibrant tone to the painting. Once that's done, I then kill the canvas, make sure everything's as I want it, and that first initial stage is done. Now, as you can see, I'm in the second session of this painting and I'm going straight back in with the darks. Every single session I start with the darks and I go to the lights, and this really helps build up different layers and adds depth to the painting. So I'm once again going in with all the darkest parts of the dog and just allowing all the values to come through. The other thing with having sessions with paintings is that between each session, the paint obviously dries slightly, even oil paint, and the paint becomes sunken into the canvas slightly. So when I start my next session, I always make sure to add wet paint everywhere. I'm trying to put paint all over the canvas to really bring back the saturation and values that I want, and it just really helps to build up the painting further. As you can see, I'm only now really putting in lighter tones for this pup because he is a blonde Labrador, but before he was quite ginger, so we're building up those highlights, and as you can see, they're really starting to pop, and the depth is paying off with how 3D he has become on the canvas. So I'm just building up those highlights and adding the darker areas where I see fit, in the ear, under the nose, and where his leg meets his body. And I'm also making sure to paint outside of the dog too. This way, when I put in the background, it will blend really nicely in with the dog so that I can really capture those soft edges, for example, the soft edges of his fur and things like that. But you'll see that later on. So I'm still just building up paint, adding in the darker values. This is where dark to lights kind of drifts away from my technique because we're getting to near the end of the painting. So I'm making sure to just get all the highlights I need. If areas need to be darker, then I'll make them darker. But I then go on to the foreground. So he is actually snuggled into a white duvet on a bed. So I'm adding the creases, then adding the highlights on top. And it just really helps the white pop by having the darkness in there already. And then I'm going in with the background, really making sure that I'm blending in those edges. The client wanted to have quite a variant of color in the background, so rather than having a block color, I'm making sure to just add that depth. So this is how the painting turned out. I hope you enjoyed watching me paint this portrait. If you found it useful, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!